With only 2 days to avert a government shutdown, a huge unanswered question remains. How much influence will voters have on how Congress proceeds, both on that continuing resolution and ultimately on the budget? Because look what we saw in Speaker Mike Johnson's rural Louisiana district, a massive line outside the food pantry, and his constituents aren't happy with Washington.
Are you aware that they are considering cutting back Medicaid in Congress right now?
I am very much aware, and my children are on Medicaid. So yes, I do I do fear that very much. The kids here, they rely on that, and we're poverty here.
Help us. People are hurting out here.
They lost their jobs, lost their homes, lost their cars, lost everything, basically. And then this is what they depend on to eat.
You may be from Louisiana, but you're the House Speaker. Cross the aisles, do whatever you got to do.
NBC's Melanie Zanona did that reporting in Speaker Johnson's district. NBC's Ryan Nobles is on Capitol Hill. And Joel Payne is a Democratic strategist and former senior aide in the Hillary Clinton campaign. Melanie, although Republicans often deny it, economists say cuts to programs like Medicaid and food stamps are the only way to make the budget work. So, again, you're in Speaker Johnson's district, which he won, by the way, with 85% of the vote. What else did his constituents tell you?
Well, there's a lot of fear here in this community about potential cuts to both Medicaid and SNAP. It is a small rural town. A lot of people told me they are struggling right now to pay for groceries, pay for eggs, pay for diapers. They're struggling to find jobs. And so a lot of the residents here have come to rely on government assistance. Also relying on the food bank that we visited yesterday that passes out baskets of free food every week to members of the community. Now, Speaker Mike Johnson has said repeatedly that they're not going to cut Medicaid benefits and that they're only looking to reform the program, including instituting things like work requirements for able-bodied adults on the Medicaid program. But even those types of changes could have devastating impacts for the community here. I talked to Pastor Don Snyder of Christian Life Church. He's one of the founders of the food bank. He runs it every week. And he said the issue is that in a community like Vinton, there are just not a lot of job opportunities and that people don't have cars and don't have public transportation to be able to travel to seek employment elsewhere. I talked to another woman, Summer Stinson, who's from the area as well, a mom of four. She said her boyfriend does have a job, but he has had his hours cut back. So he might not qualify if they institute certain type of work requirements. So just a lot of concern here, and the residents here in Vinton, VA, on their mind weighing heavily these prospects of potential Medicaid and SNAP cuts.
Some great reporting there, Melanie. Thank you. Joel, do you think these kinds of reactions make it less and less likely there will be cuts to Medicare and Medicaid? Or, I don't know, no matter what, is this an issue Democrats can use to their advantage? How do you see this playing out politically?
Well, Chris, I think it should make it less likely. And, that story that Melanie was reporting on from Speaker Johnson's district, I know, in previous appearances here with you, I've talked about other Republicans like Tom Cullen, Oklahoma. Well, guess what he did? He made a call to the Trump White House and over to DOJ to make sure that they pulled back on some of those cuts that were impacting that community. But not every American has a bat phone to power. Not every American has an opportunity to call the most powerful people in the world to go and get the programs and get the services they need brought back to them. And so I think what you're seeing is a growing fissure, not among Republicans, but among Republican constituents who don't like what they're being delivered in Washington. This is not what they signed up for. When many of these folks voted for Donald Trump, when they voted for folks like Mike Johnson, they did not vote for gutting critical services that they rely upon. They didn't vote on the other things that Trump is focusing on, which I think is why you're seeing in some recent polling and some other recent opinion research that Donald Trump is really struggling with his ratings on the economy. And I think those numbers are only going to continue to crater if Trump, Elon Musk, Mike Johnson, and Republicans continue to target working families like they have been.
And meantime, Ryan, I understand that Senate Democrats just wrapped up their meeting behind closed doors to try to figure out how to respond to the House-passed government funding bill. Tell us about that and the political bind they're in.
Yeah, that bind is real, Chris, and Democrats may not have found a way out of it quite yet. We do expect to hear from their leader, Chuck Schumer, here in just a few minutes from the Senate floor, where perhaps he will outline how they plan to address this already House-passed continuing resolution that would prevent the government from being shut down on Friday night. But we spent all day asking Democrats about the path forward, and it is clear that they are really concerned about either option, either voting for this continuing resolution, which they don't like, or voting against it and then the government shutting down. Listen to what some of them said.
This bill that was passed through the House is a terrible bill. It will hurt people in my state on the ground who are just trying to make their lives work. Shut down, first of all, it's just bad. It's bad for business.
We are opposed to a government shutdown, which is why we will propose, and we hope Senate Republicans will accept, a proposal for a 1-month continuing resolution.
So to give you an idea of just how much this is vexing the Democratic caucus on the Senate side, Chris, they met for 2 hours yesterday. They met for close to 2 hours today to try and figure out a path forward. They would like to remain unified. And perhaps what you heard Senator Van Hollen there say, maybe one of their exit strategies, perhaps offering an alternative off-ramp of a 30-day continuing resolution to allow more time for negotiation. That may be something they attempt to do, but it's something that Senate Republicans are not going to in any way entertain. So they're going to have to make a tough choice here. Either vote no, not capitulate to the Trump administration on what they view as a bad bill, or vote yes and allow the government to remain open. Remember, it would just take 8 Senate Democrats to vote with Republicans to allow this continuing resolution to go forward, and they have until Friday at midnight to make that decision, Chris.
Ryan Nobles, thank you for that. So, Joel, is this for Senate Democrats? Damned if you do, damned if you don't.
You know, I'm sure that that's how Republicans will try to paint this, but we all know Republicans are actually the ones that hold the cards here. They hold the cards in terms of getting Elon Musk off the backs of the American people and out of their pockets. And really and truly, if you look at the 6-month CR, the continuing resolution that's being proposed right now, it's really just a blank check for Republicans to keep doing what they're doing, going after these critical programs and critical services. It's why Leader Jeffries and all but one House Democrat decided to oppose it on the House side. And I think that's also why you haven't actually seen the numbers of Senate Democrats bail to support this bill, like I think maybe some of the conventional wisdom would have suggested at the beginning of this week. Only Senator Fetterman of Pennsylvania has said that he would support this 6-month extension of the continuing resolution, which is not clean, which includes cuts that Republicans negotiated among themselves. Democrats want to do a 30-day extension of the CR that's actually clean. And I don't think that Republicans actually have the Democratic votes to pass this today, at least as we speak right now at this hour.
Clock ticking, 2 days to go. Joel Payne, always good to have you on the show. Thank you.